What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to your stimulus check update, stimulus package and infrastructure update, and daily news report for Monday, May 24th. So this week is a very important week. First off, this week is the last week until Congress goes on recess for Memorial Day week. Yes, it's not Memorial Day weekend, it is Memorial Day week. Congress will go on recess, they will take a break, they will kind of just go on vacation or whatever they do, go back to their districts and talk to their constituents. It doesn't matter what they do, they will not be in Washington, at least most of them will not be. Now, we also know there are more lawmakers now that are supportive of less infrastructure spending as the economy is starting to rebound. We also know many of these lawmakers do support additional stimulus as well. This could include additional stimulus check, unemployment benefits, or possibly an additional tax credit as well. So this is kind of what we're hearing, is that more stimulus is being discussed. As we see less infrastructure, there's more stimulus. So if we see even less infrastructure than the 1.7 that's currently being proposed by the Biden administration, we could potentially see more stimulus. That's what the report is. That this is what the thinking is behind this, is even though the economy is getting a little bit better, and we see that, okay, if we provide for the American people, that would be the infrastructure spending that we really need. If the American people can then help stimulate the economy, and the economy makes more money, and we get more tax revenue, then we take that money and put that into infrastructure. That's what the discussions are at this point. But again, those are just reports. Until we actually hear from President Biden himself and hear and see the bill get passed, honestly, everything can completely change. So we also know that within the next 2 weeks that we will have an idea of how the child tax credit portal will play out, how this will work, which means you could be well on your way to receiving the $250 to $300 per month for every child that you have. That is coming very soon. The IRS says that should be coming on July 15th. So right now, there's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of talks on additional relief for the American people, but one of the things that is really being discussed is infrastructure. Now, I want to bring this up because this does play into additional stimulus. What we know is that lawmakers are pushing for additional stimulus, whether it's a check through the standard stimulus check, or unemployment benefits, which as of right now expire on September 6th, unless you're in one of the 23 states that currently will cancel it about 2 months early. But what we know is that more people are wanting to see stimulus and see relief to the American people. But with infrastructure, here's the reason why this is so critical. Infrastructure, the purpose of infrastructure is to provide more jobs. Okay, provide a better economy. We can compete with countries like China, right? We can get products to different places within this country, faster. It's more efficient. Okay, it's better on the climate. There's a bunch of things that go into this. But what you need to understand right now is this is what the discussion is. Lawmakers are trying to figure this out, and they're trying to figure it out as they go along, which is part of the reason why this is such a big problem, is because lawmakers don't really know the best way to spend money. If they did, we would not have almost $30 trillion in debt. If they knew how to spend money, we would have a surplus. But that's not the case. So let's talk about what happened yesterday, because this is actually pretty important. The White House senior advisor, Cedric Richmond, said yesterday on Sunday that President Biden is serious about bipartisan support on this infrastructure bill. However, he stated that and I quote, "It's a sincere effort to move this country forward, but the president has been very clear. Inaction is not an option." And in this interview, he ended it with this, and I quote, "He wants it soon, but as there are meaningful negotiations taking place in a bipartisan manner, he's willing to let that play out. But again, he will not let inaction be the answer. And when he gets to the point where it looks like that is inevitable, you'll see him change course." And so this is what a lot of lawmakers, mostly progressives and some Democrats, but mostly progressives, have been saying for some time. What they're saying is they don't want President Biden trying to get a bipartisan deal because they know nothing will come out of it. Democrats say that this is just a delay tactic on the Republican side, and honestly, after watching a bunch of different videos, interviews, reading a bunch of different articles, listening to just some lawmakers through Twitter and through their interviews themselves, this delay tactic is working. It is working for the Republican Party, and we know that the economy is getting better. It's starting to look up. We're seeing some signs of that, and this is where things get tricky. As the economy gets better, the need for larger infrastructure actually drops. It drops. We know this. And this is exactly what Democrats warned months ago, is that by waiting to pass a large infrastructure package, to even before when we were talking about stimulus, what they're saying is if we wait to pass an additional stimulus package, the chances of the $1.9 trillion package passing actually diminishes. Simply because the economy is getting better, the American people are starting to go back to work, right, and things like that. And so they don't need as much money. That's the exact same principles that Republicans are using for the infrastructure packages. Well, if we just wait, then we don't need to provide any more money. The American people will just bounce back on their own. Well, some do, some don't. So that's kind of what we're seeing at this point. Democrats say that waiting will only cause the package to shrink in size, which is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened on Friday. President Biden, the Biden administration dropped their initial offer from $2.25 trillion down to $1.7. And this is what we're going to see over the next few months or next month or so, is that we are going to see if the economy improves, the package will shrink. If the economy gets worse, the package could go back up in size, but most don't expect that to happen. Being that President Biden already dropped it to 1.7, the next move is either pass it at 1.7, which is highly unlikely at this time, or to drop it even further and get bipartisan support. And this is where progressives are very upset, because they said last week when the Biden administration lowered their offer from 2.25 down to 1.7 trillion, that right now this is just eliminating progressives' ability to get their priorities into this next bill. Here's the hardest part. The progressives want to see $2,000 per month stimulus checks. As of right now, it could happen, but not to the extent that progressives want. They want $2,000 per month stimulus checks for the entirety of this pandemic. Let's say this lasts until 2023. That means we have another, 18 months roughly, that we would get $2,000 per month. And then after the pandemic is over, then we would receive $1,000 per month for 1 full year. That's what progressives want. That's the bill they want to see passed. It's the ABC Act. That's the bill they want to see passed. However, that is most likely not going to happen. What we are hearing now is that there are more people that do support an additional stimulus check to the lower income earners. However, not to the tune of $2,000. $2,000 would be great. It would help out a lot of people. I know the American people would love it. However, more are now discussing the possibility of a $1,000 check, not $2,000. And I say this because $2,000 could be fairly expensive. $1,000 is still going to be fairly expensive. Right now, the Biden administration cannot agree how to pay for their $1.7 trillion infrastructure package. And so I have a firm suspicion that they don't know how to pay for, let's say, a $200 to $300 billion stimulus package that would include an additional $1,000 stimulus check. I don't think they would know how to pay for that either. They would not get support from not just Republicans. Republicans wouldn't support it. But Democrats would not have the support of their own party. They would not have the support of Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema of $1,000. Not at this point. Maybe in the fall, but not right now. So this is what is becoming a harder and harder issue, is that the infrastructure package is tying up additional stimulus to the American people. Additional stimulus to the American people is holding them back from paying off bills, being able to get back to their normal lives. And what we're hearing is that the $300 per week in unemployment benefits, according to reports, does play a factor into whether or not people are going back to work. So Democrats saying that, no, it has nothing to do with that. They're wrong. And so by them saying no and fighting against the facts, fighting against these studies, that's actually it's hurting, and it's somewhat hurtful to the Democratic Party. So there's a lot going on right now, but that's just part of it. We also know that progressives, they do support additional payments outside of just stimulus. They obviously want to see unemployment extended. However, that's most likely not going to happen. But one of the big things, and this is something that Senator Bernie Sanders really wants, he's been pushing for a while. He wants to see an expansion of Medicare. He would like to see this as well. This is something that he's obviously been pushing for, but he does understand there has to be some form of a compromise. Right now, he wants to see the age lowered from 65 down to 55. He even pushed for 50 at one point, but right now he wants to go from 65 down to 55 years old. Reports indicate he would accept 60, and that's probably what would happen. But if it's 60 years old or older is now the new eligibility requirement for Medicare, he also wants to see that we provide free vision, dental, and hearing as well, because those are all essential needs as well. But some are saying that right now, if the Biden administration and lawmakers decide, all right, we're not going to do vision, dental, and hearing, but let's go from 65 down to 55. Let's give you what you want. Some say that could work. So that is another thing that progressives want. But the big thing that progressives want is to end the filibuster. That's the big thing. And they as it stands right now, there's no way they can get all their priorities through if they have to fight against the filibuster. The filibuster is protecting the rights of the minority party, which is the Republican Party in this instance. However, we know that Democrats have been in the past discussing doing a filibuster reform where it makes it easier for the majority and makes it harder on the minority. And so that would just pretty much be a flip of what it is right now. So we'll see what happens there. But we do know there's other people as well, like Senator Elizabeth Warren and others, that do want to get rid of the Senate filibuster. But they say they want to do this. Okay, this kind of throwing this whole thing into the mix. But Senator Elizabeth Warren, I think it was over the weekend, she said she wants to get rid of the filibuster if Senate Republicans reject the Capitol Riot Commission. Right now, there's a lot of discussions on, all right, who was the cause of the Capitol riot on January 6th? Who was it? Who was that cause? Was it former President Donald Trump? Was it the Republican Party? Was it an inside job, right? There's so many different theories, right? Democrats say that if Republicans can't accept the fact that a commission just to look into the incident is a good idea, then there's no way they will ever vote for meaningful legislation to the American people. And we know there's been a call to get rid of the filibuster for a good amount of time, right? For some time. And if nothing else, if nobody can get rid of it, right now, even Senator Joe Manchin doesn't want to get rid of it. President Biden does not want to get rid of the filibuster completely, but they both say some type of reform is what is needed. So that would actually make it easier on the majority party, which is Democrats, but it's going to be a difficult road because they have to put together something that would actually benefit both parties. Because what we know at this point is if Democrats, and I know Democrats are worried at this time, but if Democrats are really worried about the upcoming election and Republicans gaining back the majority in the Senate or even the House or even both, what we know is that they do not want to pass some type of filibuster reform and make it easier on Republicans when they come into majority possibly next year. So there's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of back and forth. It's pretty much just a chess game, but we'll see what happens there. But as always, I promise I'll fill you in on all those details. So right now, if the filibuster is not done away with, if we don't see a filibuster reform, we know Democrats have two chances of passing or using the budget reconciliation. But the problem that Democrats have at this point is that the budget reconciliation can only be used if the legislation that is trying to be passed actually affects the federal budget. If it doesn't, it cannot be used. This is exactly why the $15 minimum wage had to be stripped out of there. This is exactly why the IRS or Congress could not forbid private lenders from going and garnishing your checks, garnishing your $1,400 stimulus check, simply because that would not affect the federal budget. So that got stripped out at the last minute. Okay, this is why that ending the filibuster for Democrats is a high priority, because they know that the budget reconciliation only works in certain ways. It has its limitations, and this is why right now some are saying that if we want to see a $2,000 stimulus check per month, if we want to see Medicare, an expansion, the child tax credit expansion, maybe a parent tax credit expansion, or just a parent tax credit, right? If we want to see all those things, we have to get rid of the filibuster. But that's the issue. That's a whole different discussion. And so right now, Congress has so many other things they're working on. Right now, what we're hearing is that Nancy Pelosi is pretty much going to be packing this summer full of votes. As to what they're going to vote on, how they're going to vote, what the American people will receive out of this, right now nobody knows. But that's currently what we are hearing, is that Nancy Pelosi is going to use this summer and just pack it full of votes. So, some Democrats, even though they want to see a filibuster reform, some say that now is not the time to worry about the filibuster. It's just not the time. And they say just pass the infrastructure package, let's move on, let's get that done, and we can do that through a budget reconciliation. Even Senator Ed Markey, he had this to say about the smaller size of the infrastructure package that the Biden administration proposed on Friday. And I quote, this is from Twitter. He says, a smaller infrastructure package means fewer jobs, less justice, less climate action, and less investment into America's future. This is not the time for half measures, half spending, or foot dragging. Now is the time to go big, to go bold, and to go fast. That's exactly what he said. And this is what I meant when I said if we see a smaller infrastructure package, it does mean less jobs. It means less spending back into the community or back into the economy, back into the United States, right? And we will see less infrastructure. But, and this is the big thing, is a lot of lawmakers want to see this happen now. They want to see, they want to go big, they want to go bold, and they want to see this passed immediately. They do not want to wait, which is putting more pressure on President Biden to get this done as quickly as possible. Figure out, do we have bipartisan support or do we not? And then move in one of those directions. That's what's currently being discussed. So, speaking of big and bold, many Democrats still want to see President Biden cancel a massive amount of student debt. They want to see up to $50,000 in student debt forgiveness, student loan forgiveness, and this is per student, not per household, per student. This is something that many lawmakers have been pushing for some time. Senator Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate Majority Leader, and Senator Elizabeth Warren have been pushing for this. They are kind of the leads on this, but as of right now, President Biden would rather stay somewhere in the middle between 0 and 50, which 0 to 50 is 25, but President Biden says, no, I want to be closer to $10,000 in student loan forgiveness. This has a lot of people asking why President Biden has not done this when, according to reports, he can do this legally, and all he has to do is sign an executive order, and this can be done. And the big thing, this was a campaign promise. So some lawmakers say, as a campaign promise, he must fulfill it. But then I know some of you are going to ask, well, one of the other things that he promised during his campaigning, he promised Social Security beneficiaries $200 per month as a boost. And yet there's been little discussions on the $200 per month boost, and we hear very few lawmakers even discussing it as well. So some are saying, why is it more important for students to have student loan forgiveness than it is for the elderly and people on Social Security or our veterans? Why is it more important for students than for our veterans and all them to have an additional $200 per month as disposable income? So we will see. But this has progressives a little bit upset as well, because this is putting a higher priority on certain groups over others. That's not what progressives want. Progressives want to see every single person treated fairly, and this is where the economy, and this is where the United States has gone wrong, I think, for decades, for a long time, is the United States treats people unfairly. They treat certain groups, by the color of your skin, by your status, your job title, your education. They treat them better than another group. And that's not fair. That is just not fair. So, right now, this is what we know. There's a lot of discussions going on. We will get more information as this week goes on, probably even over next week as well. Like I said, Congress will be on recess for Memorial Week, but what I can tell you is hopefully they'll be back in their home districts. They'll be working with their constituents, putting together plans and proposals, maybe working with other lawmakers across the aisle as well to find some type of bipartisanship there. But as we know more, I promise I will fill you in on all those details as well. One other thing I just want to address is that the other day we got reports that the Wuhan lab, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, is now under further investigations. And this is because the reports are now coming out that 3 researchers from there sought hospital care back in November of 2019. This was 1 month before China even reported the first case of COVID. And so some are saying right now, and there's been reports and there's been rumors that China has been trying to cover up this whole incident for the past year. But now the reports are really coming out, what's happening, what went down, and hopefully we'll see more there. We do know that former President Donald Trump did state before that if China was at fault, which he's called this the China virus, he had a bunch of different names for it. But if China was at fault, he would make sure the American people were taken care of, and it would be at the expense of the Chinese. That is what he said. Who knows if that's something that President Biden would go forward with? I don't think that would be. I don't even know if that's even possible, how former President Donald Trump would even have done that. But if he comes back into office, which right now there's chances that he is going to rerun, maybe that is something that he tries to do, and he tries to provide more to the American people to get them back on their feet. So I'm not trying to tell you to, hey, if former President Donald Trump reruns again, go vote for him, because this might happen. Chances are very slim, but we'll see what happens there. As we know more, I promise I will share more. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful Monday morning and Monday afternoon, and I'll see you guys on the next one.